The bedroom door creaked open, and the scent hit me first, jasmine and cedarwood, her perfume, but wrong, somehow sharper, like it had been layered over sweat and something metallic. My wife, Elise, stood frozen in the doorway, her silhouette jagged against the hallway light. Her keys clattered to the floor, a discordant jangle that sliced through the silence. Her eyes, wide and glassy, locked onto the bed, our bed, where Brian, her best friend since college, lay sprawled, shirtless, his arm flung across my pillow. The sheets were tangled, damp with the ghost of body heat. I sat up, heart hammering, my mouth dry as ash. "Elise," I croaked, but her gaze didn't meet mine. Stayed fixed on him. The night before, she'd texted me at 11:47 p.m. staying at Brian's. "Too much wine. Don't wait up." I'd stared at the message, the screen's blue glow stinging my eyes in our dark bedroom. My thumb hovered over the keyboard, typing and deleting OK 3 times before settling on a single emoji. A thumbs up. It felt safer than words. Safer than asking why she'd chosen his couch over a cab ride home. The unease had settled in my gut like a stone. Heavy but not sharp, not yet. Now her lips trembled and she stepped forward, her boots scuffing the hardwood. What is this, David?" Her voice was a frayed thread, barely holding together. I opened my mouth, but Brian stirred, groaning softly, his hand brushing the headboard where her initials were carved. Her eyes flicked to the carving, and something in her face cracked. Confusion, yes, but beneath it, a flicker of guilt I didn't expect. "Elise, I can explain," I said, my voice sounding foreign, too steady for the chaos in my chest. Brian's eyes fluttered open, and he bolted upright, the sheet slipping to reveal a bruise on his collarbone, purple and fresh. Elise's breath hitched, and I saw her cataloging it, her mind racing to places I couldn't follow. "Explain," she whispered, her voice rising. "You're in our bed with him. How do you explain that?" Her hands clenched, nails digging into her palms, and I noticed her knuckles were red, raw, like she'd been gripping something too tightly all night. I stood, the floor cold against my bare feet, and took a step toward her. She flinched, and that small motion gutted me. "It's not what you think," I said, but the words felt hollow even to me. Brian rubbed his face, muttering, "Shit, Elise, I didn't." But she cut him off with a glare so sharp it could have drawn blood. "Don't," she snapped. "Don't you dare say my name right now." The air thickened, heavy with the scent of her perfume and the sour tang of betrayal. I replayed the night in my head, searching for the moment it all unraveled. Elise had been distant for weeks, late nights at work, her phone angled away from me, her laughter with Brian over dinner too bright, too long. I'd brushed it off, told myself it was nothing. She'd known him forever. They were like siblings. But last night after her text, I'd called Brian's phone. No answer. I'd driven to his apartment, knuckles white on the steering wheel, and found his car gone. The lights were off, the curtains still. My stomach had twisted, but I'd driven home, convincing myself I was paranoid. Brian had shown up at 2 a.m. disheveled, his eyes bloodshot. "I fucked up, David," he'd slurred, collapsing onto the couch. She's done with me." I'd poured him a whiskey, let him ramble about a fight with Elise, about her leaving his place in a rage. He didn't say why. I didn't ask. When he passed out, I'd helped him to bed, our bed, because the guest room was a mess of unpacked boxes. I'd slept beside him, too exhausted to think, too scared to wonder what he wasn't saying. Now Elise's eyes darted between us, her breath shallow. "You think I'm stupid," she said, her voice breaking. "You think I don't see what's happening?" But there was something off in her accusation, a tremor of doubt, like she was trying to convince herself as much as me. "Elise, nothing happened," I said, stepping closer. She backed away, her heel catching on the rug. "Brian was drunk. He crashed here." "That's it." "Then why didn't you tell me?" she shouted, tears spilling now. "Why didn't you call me?" "I tried." My voice cracked, the lie bitter on my tongue. I hadn't called. I'd been too afraid of what I'd hear. Brian stood, swaying slightly, his hands raised like a surrender. "Elise, listen. This isn't David's fault. It's mine. He stopped, his jaw tightening, and I saw it then. The way his eyes lingered on her, not with guilt but with longing. My chest constricted, the air too thick to breathe. "Yours." Elise's voice was a hiss. "What did you do, Brian?" He swallowed, his Adam's apple bobbing. "Last night you left. You were so angry. I thought. He glanced at me and I felt the ground shift. I thought you told him. Told me what? I asked, my voice barely audible. Elise's face crumpled, and she sank onto the edge of the bed, her hands covering her mouth. The room spun, the walls closing in, the jasmine scent suffocating. Elise, I said louder now, what did you do? She looked up, her eyes raw, and whispered. It was one time. At Brian's. Last night. I didn't mean for it to happen. The words landed like a blade, clean and deep. I staggered back, the room tilting. Brian's face paled and he shook his head, muttering. No, Elise, you said it was over. You said. Shut up, she screamed, her voice shattering the air. You don't get to talk about it like it was nothing. I stared at her, my wife, the woman who'd carved her initials into our headboard, who'd promised me forever. The betrayal wasn't in our bed. It was in hers, in Brian's, in the space between her texts and her silence. I'd suspected, feared, but the truth was heavier than I'd imagined. My knees buckled and I gripped the dresser, the wood cool and solid under my trembling hands. Why? I asked, my voice a stranger's. Why him? She sobbed, her words tumbling out in fragments. I was lonely. You were always working, always gone. Brian, he was there. It was a mistake. A mistake. The word echoed, hollow, meaningless. I looked at Brian, his face a mask of regret and something else, love maybe, or obsession. He'd come here, drunk and broken, not to confess to me, but to be close to her, even in her absence. Get out, I said, my voice low, dangerous. Brian hesitated, then grabbed his shirt and stumbled toward the door. Elise reached for me, but I jerked away, her touch burning. David, please, she whispered. I love you. I laughed, a sharp, ugly sound. You love me? Then why do I smell your perfume on him? Her eyes widened and she froze, her hand hovering in the air. The bruise on Brian's collarbone flashed in my mind, and I realized it wasn't from a fight. It was hers. Her mark. Her betrayal. The door slammed behind Brian, and the silence swallowed us. Elise's sobs filled the room, but I couldn't look at her. The bed, our bed, felt like a crime scene, the sheets stained with the weight of her absence. I turned and walked out, the jasmine scent clinging to me, a ghost I couldn't shake. In the hallway, my phone buzzed. A text from Brian. I'm sorry. I loved her first. I stared at the words, my heart a hollow drum. The betrayal wasn't just hers. It was his, 2 years in the making, hidden in plain sight. I deleted the message, my hands shaking, and stepped into the dawn. The world outside too bright, too cruel for the wreckage inside me.